Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really powerful theory that has totally reshaped how some of the smartest companies on the planet think about creating new things.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a little bit of a puzzle. Now, it sounds like the beginning of a bad joke, right? But the answer to this question actually stumped a massive fast food chain, and believe it or not, led to one of the biggest breakthroughs in business thinking. Let's dig in. So, the story starts with a goal that couldn't be simpler. A fast food company wanted to sell more milkshakes. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
And they did exactly what you'd think they'd do. You know, what we're all taught to do. They went directly to their customers, ran focus groups, and asked them, hey, how can we make our milkshakes better so you'll buy more?
And the feedback was crystal clear. People said, make them thicker, make them chipper, give us more chocolatey flavors. So the company did it. They checked every single box. And the result? Absolutely nothing. Zip. Sales were completely flat.
So what went wrong? This wasn't just a small marketing blunder. It actually pointed to a really deep fundamental problem with how we typically think about why people choose one product over another. They had all the data, but it was leading them completely astray.
This is where the legendary Harvard professor Clayton Christensen comes into the picture. He looked at this problem and suggested that maybe the company and, well, most companies were asking the wrong question from the very beginning.
And this one question, it changes everything. It completely shifts your focus away from the product itself, its features and its price, and zooms in on the customer's actual life, their situation. You stop looking at the what, and you start, finally, to understand the why.
All right, so let's break this down. The theory basically says this. All of us are just trying to make progress in our lives, to get from point A to point B. And when we face a struggle, we hire a product or a service to help us get that job done.
Think about it like this. If the product does the job really well, the next time we're in that same situation, we'll probably hire it again. But if it does a lousy job, we fire it, and we start looking for something else to hire. It's that simple.
Okay, so now that we've got this new lens, let's go back to that milkshake mystery. Let's see what happened when the researchers stopped asking about the shake and started asking about the job.
And what they found was fascinating. They realized people weren't hiring the milkshake for just one job. No, it was being hired for two totally different jobs, depending on the time of day. First up, the morning job. A lot of milkshakes were sold before 8:30 a.m. to people driving to work. The job? To make a long, boring commute a little more interesting and to be filling enough to stave off hunger till lunch. And get this, the competition wasn't other milkshakes. It was bananas, which are gone in 2 seconds, or bagels, which are messy and a pain to eat while you're driving.
But then, in the afternoon, a completely different story. Parents were coming in with their kids, and they were hiring the milkshake for the job of being a good dad or a good mom. It was a way to share a special treat and connect. And in this case, the competition was, a trip to the toy store or maybe just playing catch in the yard. And that's the big aha moment. Making the shake thicker or more chocolatey was useless because those improvements didn't help it do either job any better. In fact, for the commuter, an even thicker shake that lasted longer would have been better. For the parent and kid, a thinner, smaller one they could finish quickly might have been the right move. The one-size-fits-all solution was actually a one-size-fits-none. So once you start seeing the world through this jobs lens, your entire view of competition just gets turned completely upside down. You realize pretty quickly that your competitors aren't just the other companies in your category. Your real competition is anything a customer could use to solve the same problem, to make the same progress. So take Netflix. The CEO famously said their biggest competitor is an HBO or Disney Plus. It's a bottle of wine. Why? Because at the end of a long day, they are both hired for the exact same job. Help me switch off my brain, relax, and unwind. Or think about BMW. For years, they competed with Mercedes and Audi. But then they realized, especially in big cities, a lot of people don't want the job of owning a high-performance car. They just want the job of getting from A to B without any hassle. And suddenly, their biggest competitors are Uber and Zipcar.
And here's a really interesting one. What job does a quick 5-minute scroll through Facebook solve in the middle of a workday? Well, for a lot of people, it's the exact same job as stepping outside for a cigarette, a short mental break, a little escape, a moment to disconnect.
All right, let's bring this all home. How does this go from being a really cool theory to a predictable strategy for building things people actually want to buy? This is how you take luck out of the equation. Instead of just guessing what features people might want, you can zero in on a real-world struggle and build a solution specifically for that job. It makes innovation so much more predictable.
So, where do you find these jobs? Well, the theory gives us a few clues. You can look for struggles in your own life. You can look for what's called non-consumption, situations where people aren't buying anything because there's no good solution. You can spot the weird workarounds people invent, or you can notice when people are using an existing product for something it was never designed for. At the end of the day, it all comes back to this one crucial shift. You have to stop focusing on what customers do and start obsessing over why they do it. What is the progress they are trying to make in their life? That's the secret sauce.
Once you start seeing the world this way, you just can't unsee it. That coffee you bought this morning, you didn't just hire a beverage, you hired it to help you get your day started. That app you downloaded, you hired it to kill 5 minutes of boredom in a waiting room. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you buy something, anything at all, just take a second and ask yourself, what job did I really hire this to do? The answer might surprise you.